One last metaphor, one last pure right brain thing. Begins the transition to left brain. Nobody can ever accuse Harvard Business School of being right brain. How does Harvard Business School teach you about business? Well, one model that is very clearly hammered home, and any private, small business operators here will know this, and that is you've got to have an overview, right? You've got to have an overview. Then, only after you have your overview, can you begin to look at strategy. If you want, overview is the view from the airplane at 28,000 feet. Okay? Only when you've seen the lay of the land, see where the lakes are and where the mountains are and where the urban regions are, like that big picture, can you begin to, or in case of business, it would be, what is your market? How large is your market? What are your facilities for distributing to that size market? How about the facilities for manufacturing the product to fulfill the needs and not create expectation before the ability to fulfill that? All that stuff is that overview, and strategy is the rooftop level. Okay, what kind of sales force to hire, what kind of specific tactics to use in selling, and so on. And then we get down to tactics, the actual sales tactics, or manufacturing approaches, or whatever. But that's down at street level, the nitty-gritty down at street level view. And that operates, that hierarchy, if you want, that's a dirty word, isn't it? That system operates quite effectively, or did. Now it's very interesting. A lot of businesses have been going bankrupt. There's more bankruptcies per number of businesses now than I think at any time, even more than the 30s. And they're folding up left and right. No big panic, but there is quite a number of bankruptcies, quite a number of businesses failing. Well, if that works, you must say, well, that means that they don't have enough overview. Hey, they've got all these wonderful computers and management experts and so on. I think that they have enough overview. What's missing? There's something missing here. It may not have been missing until 20 years ago. But now there's something missing. A new level has been added. They've snuck it in. That level is called vision. Vision. I'm not seeing visions, not my Lady of Fatima stuff. A larger vision. Maybe it's not enough to see it from 30,000 feet. We've got a larger scope to see it now. How about the moonshots? How about looking back on Earth and seeing it as one ball hanging in space? Seeing the interconnectedness. Astronauts writing poetry in midair about the impactful experience of seeing this globe down there, and how the distinction of countries and so on disappear, how we are one family. I don't know what particular spiritual or philosophic background they came from, but it blew them away. Well-trained Russian astronauts. I don't know how many people know of this, but I think it was in the very early 60s, ham radio operators picked up transmissions from one of the Vostoks, I think it was, one of the early manned space shots. And this well-trained, militaristic type, he was supposed to be, his pedigree, or whatever they call it, said that he was a military man, a Russian military man. He's flipping out on the airways saying, I'm an eagle, Very un-astronaut-like expansion, expression of self. Spent some time in a Mexican fishing village. None of my stories are fluff, by the way. I want to let you know that I'm not throwing in stories just to be ha 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 funny. They tie up very much. I spent some time in a Mexican fishing village whose a level of civilization was about 18th century, 17th century. There was no electricity. Christianity hadn't made it in. It was still witch doctor type of thing. And this was in 1970 when the solar eclipse was due. Total solar eclipse. And we were about 1 degree off the path of totality. And I had heard all the stuff that if you look straight into the eclipse, you're going to get blinded and all that. And we were concerned about the villagers. And they had been approaching us asking, we hear a rumor, is it going to be the end of the world next month? That kind of thing. And we'd explain no, and the sun's going to go out. And they were really pressing. They were really pressing for just what is it that's going to happen. So I was coming back from town, and I had some fresh fruits with me in a backpack. And I said, all right, guys, sit down in the sand here. And I said, look. And I take out a grapefruit, and I take out an orange, and I take out a lemon. And I say, here's the earth, or here's the sun, and here's the earth, and then here's the moon. And I lost them. And they started giggling. Well, hold on, let me start again. See, here. And then I got it. The moment I proposed the world is round, I lost them. Not in their reality, it's not. This is in 1970. How about in 1500? Before Columbus came back with that rumor of his. The world was flat in people's experience. There was no evidence to the contrary in their body of experience. And then comes along some information that absolutely revolutionizes. It's much more than just a mathematical, geographic proposition. It's a biggie. Some experts say the Renaissance was given its stimulus by that increasing awareness of a contiguous whole, instead of falling off of edges. We've had such an experience of the same magnitude, and it's changing all the rules of all the games, including Harvard Business School games. That's right, the picture from the space shots of planet Earth as a blue Christmas tree decoration hanging in space. A little rock hurtling through space. That's become an experience for most of us. That's not some nice theoretical thing. And it's changing all the rules. We need to see that vision. Okay? The overview of the Gazingas pin market and the marketability of Gazingas pins and how much advertising we're going to create in order to create demand for Gazingas pins. All that overview stuff is not enough. Vision says, do we need Gazingas pins? Is that going to help this planet, this ball in space? Is this going to promote us? Is this going to enliven us? Is this going to allow us to survive? We are one bunch of people, of ants on this ball, on this rock hurtling through space. Is that which I am doing, manufacturing, selling, and so on, truly serving that level of vision is what's needed? That's true in personal finances. Anything that's true in business will also be true in personal finances. What vision of our lives do we have? Can we go beyond? We all have an overview, many of us. What vision, what's the big perspective that we have on our lives? A little clipping from a newspaper. I love the fact that every so often I pick up a newspaper and I get almost verbatim something I put out just, a week before. This is from the Seattle Post-Intelligence, sir. Apple's purge of founder Jobs. Anybody know how to pronounce it? Jobs? Stephen Jobs. Stephen Jobs does not compute. All right? Apple's founder is being kicked out. The distinguishing characteristic of Stephen Jobs is that he has a vision, a pervasive philosophy. His whole professional career has been an effort, remarkably successful, to bring that vision to life. Without that vision, Apple is likely to turn into just one more computer company in futile pursuit of IBM. There's a half a dozen other places where vision. Over and over again that's happening. That larger vision.
Mainstream folks are waking up to things like our interconnectedness and the need for vision. A speech that an American politician by the name of Gary Hart made in 1982 at Yale Divinity School had this paragraph. We are not defined by our possessions. Our vision reaches beyond the material plane. The quantitative instruments of economics cannot circumscribe the human spirit. He went on to say, prosperity does not provide purpose. It is not, of itself, a worthwhile vision. Pretty heavy stuff for a politician. So it's not about having 2 cars in every garage and pot in every chicken. No, chicken in every pot. I mean, but haven't those been the bywords for 100 years? The more prosperity we have, the better. Then came the 50s, and we learned that materialism was bad. That our lack of personal fulfillment, that all the woes in our life was due to our materialistic grasping. Now, we learned that in the 50s. Now what do we have in the 80s? We have abundance and prosperity, the new materialism. We changed the name. When I say that line in California, the house comes down. Because everywhere you look, there's some abundance and prosperity seminar and workshop and so on. And they're really great. If you wish hard enough, it'll come your way, you know, that kind of thing. The only thing wrong with that, I haven't seen it work. You know, these people that put a little affirmation in the corner of their mirror. See, so every morning when they go to shave, there's this little announcement here that says, I'm a money magnet, I attract money. You know, they're trying to shave and read that at the same time. You know what they get? Slit throats or frizzy hair. It really is a new materialism. We forget. You know, we preach that interconnectedness, and then we forget that any time that we're using up resources, somebody else ain't. And it is now, we're discovering a finite universe. It's a finite amount. In terms of that material stuff, it's a finite universe. The list of things we're going to be running out of in the next 50 years, pretty long. So we use it up, somebody else down the pike isn't going to have it. You're not going to get any results from the elements of a telescope out of line. So that the energy of that sunlight, if what your object is to get that tissue paper on fire, the energy of that sunlight is not being focused. It's not being effective. It's not being used for that intended purpose. How does it apply to us? Well, something I realized was that and years later I projected that maybe that also occurred to others, was equally unaligned, out of line. I mean, I had my financial life over here, and then somewhere over here was my relationships, and I had nothing to do with that, obviously. And then someplace over here had to do with my job and my job life, and And over here was my spiritual life, and here was my emotional stuff, and then my intellectual studies were over here. Nothing was in line with anything else. I was scattered. Then the idea of bringing everything into line made sense. That maybe something more effective could happen. But to so many of us, getting our financial lives in line with what we say our lives are about, or how does that work in terms of our relationships, or whatever, we compartmentalize. So maybe it's a necessary function to get things in line. Get them in line behind what? Not arbitrarily in line, that doesn't make sense. Has to be a seed crystal. You know how you scatter something into clouds to make them rain. Because it simply creates that seed crystal, and then the water vapor can coalesce around it. What kind of seed crystal do we need in order to coalesce those disparate, those scattered aspects of our life? Well, we touched upon it a little bit. Vision, a bigger vision, seeing ourselves as part of that whole, W-H-O-L-E. That's a neat one. But we're really beginning to touch upon is purpose. Why are we making money? Why are we living? Why are we doing what we're doing? What's the purpose? What's the purpose to it all? In that earlier model, the Tibetans 5,000 years ago postulated that maybe a key issue is in recognition. I propose that we do have, each one of us, a clear purpose to our lives. And maybe we aren't at the point of recognition yet. So in beginning to look at our finances and our personal finances, to look at it from that point of view, maybe will create a greater recognition. Because after all, we're spending a third of our hours minimum, many of us, around money. That's appalling. A third of our hours, a third of our lives, minimum, around money. So maybe if we found a purpose, we've thrown out making a living as an end in itself. Hopefully we've begun to shatter some of those stuck places. So if we focus on why are we earning money? Oh, beyond, not too many people in this room look hungry. Beyond having to feed your face and put a relatively waterproof roof over your head, survival level, I think most people here are well above that level.
This concludes Session 4. Please take the necessary time to answer the review questions for Session 4 on page 45 in your workbook. When you are ready to continue, answer the preview questions for Session 5 on page 49, and then continue listening.
Purpose. Purpose. The vision for our lives. Why are we doing the 9 to 5 till we die? Sure, it's automatic, that's what one does. But if we stop and look at it, why would we want financial integrity or financial independence? I don't care which one. FI, okay? Financial integrity or financial independence. You'll see later in the second half how it really doesn't matter how you look at it, because like that pyramid, it will complete itself
out of everything that we're talking about today, financial independence is a natural outcome. I know that right now that sounds a little bit spacey. You'll see how that works over the course of the day. So let's just call it financial integrity. Why would we want that? Why would we want to clear up our relationship with money? Now you got to understand that I would hand out, when I was doing the personal consultations, here I and the client, both in suits, both in a 43rd floor office in New York City, both really putting on the whole act. So to get that kind of information was difficult. What I would do is hand out a sheet that had about 100 different things that they could check off. And from it, I would extract basic categories. What I'm going to be putting up is the kind of categories that would be there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to list them in slightly different order and give each one a number. And I'll explain afterwards what that number stands for. So what would be the purpose in getting out of 9 to 5 till you die? Well, one might be, I don't like to work. And the number, -2. You look at the minus sign and you say, well, sure, it's a negative statement. So let's put it positive. I want to play. -2. Okay, I want to further my education. That one gets a -1. I want time to work on myself. Small s. Self. 0. I want to contribute to others. And my job holds me back, or having to make a dime holds me back. +1. And finally, there would be one that it was scattered throughout this choices of 100 that added up to, I know that my life is about more than 9 to 5 till I die. I know that there's some kind of higher purpose. Again, not dealing with theology, just a sensing that there is something more for me to do. Now that could be phrased all kinds of different ways. A higher purpose, or I want to dedicate my life to God. I want to dedicate myself to life. Or dedicate myself to love. Or to service. Or to the planet. Or that kind of very large self-vision. So let's call it higher purpose. +2. Now here's the interesting thing. Where those numbers come from would be 3- and 5-year follow-ups on these hundreds and hundreds of clients. After I had gone over and done all the financial advice, 3 years later and 5 years later, check up on them, see how they're doing, see how much closer to their stated goals they are, see if they've cleaned up those humongous debts, see if they're less on the brink of bankruptcy. You think it's outrageous to look at somebody that has $100,000 a year salary and he's on the verge of bankruptcy? Easy, real easy, easier for them than for somebody in much lower brackets, mainly because they have more credit. That's the truth. So they can get in deeper. They're not just playing around with some crummy little credit card. That's bad enough. Apparently the most shocking thing I said in a radio interview that I had a couple of days ago was burn your credit cards. We'll get back to that. All right, on those follow-ups, those that wanted to clean it up simply because they wanted to get out from work, most of them didn't make it. They weren't any better off 3 or 5 years later. They were just as much on the brink. 75 to 100% of them had not gotten through, had not improved. Same thing with just reversing the wording. Further education, about 33% of them had improved, and 66% had not. On the working on self, it was about 50-50. You know, working on self, I want to get beyond my, my psychoses and my neuroses and my halitoses and all my OCs. Work on self. About 50% did, 50% didn't improve in their financial picture. Contributing to others, about 75% improved. And the much smaller percentage I had chosen down here, that vague category of higher purpose, service, mission, I got a mission. Almost all of them made it. Dramatically. 100%. Or darn close to it. That blew me away. You see, I didn't have preconceptions. The kind of questions I was asking are standard kinds of questions to ask. And here I feed all the stuff into the computer and it's giving me these odds. And then you look at that and you see the obvious. I saw the obvious. From total selfishness to unselfishness. From get to give. From me to we. Any way you want to slice it. From little to big. Wow. Interesting. Spiritual truths from an IBM 360. So we were working with, who's your guru, you know, IBM 360. Over and over again, different samplings, statistically significant samplings. Over and over again, this was happening. How about those intermediate ones? Why is further education somewhat better? I mean, it still looks self-centered. Why? Let's ask that why. Why are you wanting further education? Maybe in a certain percentage of the cases is in order to contribute more. To have more to contribute, to be more skilled, more masterful, more artful in that personal contribution to a larger whole. Same thing with the 50-50 and work on self. Again, it might be to clear away my personal garbage in order to be fully available, fully free. So I don't have to pay attention with my small stuff. How come contribute to others isn't quite ranking right up there with higher purpose? Well, why do you want to contribute to others? So you can have the pat on the back? Heck of a lot of ministers and people in helping professions are really in it just for the pat on the back, for the power trip, for the prestige of it, not because of any real desire to contribute. It's still ego. When you get down to here, when somebody has the gall to be sitting there in a business suit and saying, I got a mission, or I'm about to something higher, and say, hey, that's dedication. That's already, they're so far gone. They're so bhakti, so out there, so, and that carries them through. Anything can be accomplished with that. Okay, now this doesn't mean that when you begin to investigate what is your purpose in clearing up finances, you ought to lie. Oh, well, yeah, I have purpose. Oh, sure. Doesn't work that way. You see, reality has a very interesting attribute. It doesn't care what you say, it cares what you do. That's all it measures by. And as you'll see later, it doesn't work to lie. If you're a greed head and you just want it, I want bucks and so that I can live on an island off of Fiji or something, fine, say so. Tell the truth about it. You got a better chance. Now, this is not moralizing on my part. This is something you got to get. This is not me moralizing, telling you what you should. This is what I found over the years, over and over again, worked. This is how it works. With a large enough sampling, with a cross-cultural sampling, that all I can do is report. This is what works. This is how it works. So we've covered purpose. having to define your purpose, create a vision. You know, you don't have to dream it up. Vision. I had a vision. Go do some nitrous oxide and have a vision. Yeah. You can sit in your chair and make it up. We're not talking Our Lady of Fatima stuff. Little girls in grotto stuff. This is a grotto. Just looking in there, you know. Pulling a t-shirt up and sticking their head and saying, all right, what's life really about? What am I really about, you know? Private phone call to yourself, you know. The next step in that 5-step to getting something done is intention. Interesting thing about setting the determination to act in a certain way to accomplish a specific certain goal is that it has to be very, very totally internally generated. And in this case, numerically defined. It's not enough to say, I want $1 million. That's kid stuff. That's little kids, you know, arguing with each other. My dad has $1 million. Well, my dad has $1 trillion. You don't have, most of us do not have the experience, the internally generated experience of $1 million. It's got to come from our body of experience, internally generated. Something we know something about. How do you set a numeric goal that comes from your body of experience that yet describes something that you haven't yet experienced? So it looks like there's a paradox right there. I'm telling you, it's absolutely vital to define, numerically define, that financial goal, but it has to come from experience, from your own experience, and yet what we're talking about is that goal, which is financial independence, which you haven't yet experienced. Okay, again, in the second half, you'll see clearly how that can come to pass. It has to be mentioned here because it's part of this evolution. That first it's in the realm of attitude, in the realm of how you hold yourself in the world in terms of your personal finances. Now comes willingness. And part of that willingness is, what are you willing to live at? What level would financial independence look like? What would it look like? Are we talking about, are you in the wrong room? Did you come, thinking it was about making $1 million, and what I'm talking about is something like involuntary simplicity or something? Or, being poor, being a beggar? Well, it's interesting, in some countries of the Far East, it may work. And it's partly, at least traditionally, you've done your 40 years as a householder, and then it's time to go out and serve God. So you drop the 3-piece suit, you put on a loincloth, you drop the attaché case and take a begging bowl. Then you go out into the street. This is really what sannyasin means. It's not people in orange robes. I mean, it's that too, but it means, the begging bowl and out to serve God. First find and then serve. So in those countries, you're walking around with loincloth and begging bowl, and you get hungry, and you're knocking on the nearest door, and out comes a little kid, sees you, and says, Ma, holy man here. Ma comes out with a dollop of rice, boop, puts it on the bowl, and you go on your way. You give the blessing, and you go on your way. Great. Don't try that in Vancouver. Doesn't work too good. You get busted for that kind of stuff. So what we have in certain subcultures, we have substituted, just the same way that we substituted for the old materialism, we put abundance and prosperity and made it okay. So we have substituted for the begging bowl idea, and what we say is, well, if I am doing the right thing, God will provide. May I suggest to you that she has more important things to do than to provide for you
If we can free her up to do the big stuff, and we take care of our own stuff, maybe it'll all work out better. It's my own personal theology right now, but I have a hunch it'll work a lot better. She's got a very busy schedule. And coming Christmas, man, she's going to get all those wish lists, Let's free her up a little bit. So maybe the name of the game is you handle your own needs. Besides, in the world of reality, if you're not holding up your end of the stick, somebody else is. It always works that way. So you're about serving, but you're also about ripping off, right? Somebody else handles your needs, and you're talking about serving. Sorry, not the way I've seen it work. All right, so obviously, what today's about is how to become rich. It's not about poor, right? I just eliminated poor. It's about becoming rich. Sure, and condemning you to misery, right? I love it when newspapers just come right along and, create these wonderful backings up. October 9th, less than a month ago, Seattle Times. Headline reads, "An embarrassment of riches." It's reporting on a book by H. Roy Kaplan, a Florida Institute of Technology professor and author of a book called Lottery Winners, interviewing hundreds and hundreds of lottery winners to see how they have fared since they won all those boodles of money. Guess what his findings were? That's right, the vast majority of the miserable. Some of them actually have gone out and become junkies. They had never touched drugs before. But in order to escape the misery of this wealth, I've talked to hundreds of lottery winners, says H. Roy Kaplan, Florida Institute of Technology professor, who studied 1,000 lottery winners over the past 10 years. And I have found very few who had any idea what to do with the money or who got any happiness from it. Hate to pull the rug out. I'm sorry. Besides, who can define rich? That's the one thing nobody can define. Now, you ask the guy that has $465 million, which I have. My boss on Wall Street, that was what his net worth was. And he admitted, no, he wasn't happy. Actually, he was quite miserable. This empire, his kid was a cretin, and he had to pass this empire on. And his great white hope, his kid, happened to have come out like, a couple of bricks shy of a load. Nice enough guy, good-looking dude. No way that he was going to carry on the old man's empire. Great source of unhappiness. So if we're talking about fulfillment, and I'm saying to you, hey, there ain't none in great wealth. I haven't seen it. And if this guy, I'm sure he's pretty objective, this Roy Kaplan, is interviewing these people that had windfalls, how about inherited wealth? We do a lot of work with groups of people that have inherited money. Most miserable bunch of people you can imagine. Guilt-ridden, blowing it every which way. The ones I hate doing any financial counseling with. People that have inherited money. Because I know right off the bat, they have to blow it. They need to get rid of that stuff. The ventures that they go into are guaranteed losing ventures. They want to get rid of it. It's hot potato. Getting burned. In a large majority of cases. All right, so if it isn't poor, and if it isn't rich, the hell am I talking about? I'm talking about the peak of the curve. That curve, the fulfillment curve, more I spend, the more fulfilled, the more I spend, more fulfilled, the more I spend, more fulfilled. Up here, what's that called? That's called enough. That's right. That's what that's called, enough. And then what? What if we found a way to eliminate that portion of the curve? Does that mean that we have hit our peak of fulfillment? That's it? And we stay at that level forever? No. Maybe there's another curve. Maybe there's another way that that curve continues up. Like that. No more money spent. Same amount. But now that curve is just going through the roof. Maybe. Just maybe. Maybe there's ways to increase fulfillment that have nothing to do with spending more money. Maybe we can truncate that curve. And that's what all of today's about, is learning that point, each one for ourselves. Not me setting a figure for you. You will learn to define what is enough, what is the peak of fulfillment in terms of money spent.
This concludes Session 5. Please take the necessary time to answer the review questions for Session 5 on page 51 in your workbook. When you are ready to continue, answer the preview questions for Session 6 on page 55, and then continue listening.
Now we come to some very, very nitty-gritty stuff. What's money? Just what is it? We put after an equal sign. What's its identity? What's always true about it? Money equals blank. What do we put after that blank? Again, not what we say, but what we live. What are we putting after that equal sign? Now, we always know, we always prattle on about, well, I know money isn't happiness. Good. It's a quick audience. They begin to laugh even before that punchline. But do you live that way? That's all that reality knows, is how you're living, not what you're preaching. So are you acting as if money was to buy you happiness? I'm so depressed, I think I'll go have a Baskin Robbins, or whatever the equivalent here is. Or I'll buy a new dress, or somehow it's always something relating to money. My depression will be alleviated by something that money can buy. In that case, you've terminated depression forever. Oh, it comes back, you say. And then you have to buy something else, and then it still comes back. Tunnel number 4, tunnel number 4, tunnel number 4, tunnel number 4, tunnel number 4. So that's putting something after an equal sign. Somehow money equals happiness. Even if it doesn't, I still act as if. Doesn't work. Simple. All right. How about money is security? Everybody knows that. At least, some money, security. Try walking down some sleazy neighborhood with an attaché case of 1 million greenbacks or orangebacks or whatever, and it says on the outside, $1 million. How secure are you going to be? My God, some of the most insecure people I know are those that have a lot of material wealth. Who's going to break into the apartment? What's going to go out of fashion? Who's going to that's all that they're dealing with. Is that storm going to wreck my fancy designer house? Is this going to happen to my, That's security, huh? As somebody once said, sorry, security's an inside job. Money is what? What do we put next to that?
Money is a way of proving myself to my peers. You really think that they're so uninvolved in themselves that they're going to notice or care? You think the Joneses care that you're keeping up with them? They're so busy being the Joneses, you know, with their heads up their own wazoos. They don't care. That's the truth of it. The one I ran was, it was going to be a way to prove myself to my parents. You know, I was going to be the first one of my family lineage to have made it big in the new world, you know, that kind of thing. My parents come from Latin America. So as soon as I started making more money than my father hated my guts. Really resented me. Sorry, it's the truth. Really resented me. I had one-upped them. So, no payoff there. What else do we put after money is? All right. Now, of course, we don't ever put money as sex. No. That's gross. No, thank God it's not a church, you know? But now think back when you were a teenager. Thank you. Money, and you know it's false, right? You married her, now you're miserable. So that wasn't true. Money is. What do we put after it? That's not true. We think it's true, and it's not true. Now, why is it so important to identify what our particular patterns are? You know? So what if we put something that ain't 100% true next to that equal sign? You know, I mean, that's a point that I really need to emphasize. I really need to emphasize that. Somebody turn up the mic. Damn, man, that's a third mic that doesn't work, you know? I'm going to write to the people that made that mic. I'm really going to write a letter. He's really gone nuts now, huh? Sure, it's pretty nuts to think a pen is a microphone, right? And it's pretty stupid to try to write a letter with a microphone. Oh, it must be a case of mistaken identity. Anything we put after this equal sign that isn't true screws us up. It's the same thing as me trying to talk into my pen or write a letter with that microphone. So what is money then? We have to have something that's true. This is a pen. When I know that this is a pen, when I identify this as a pen, then I can write a letter with this. When I know that this is a microphone, then I can talk into this microphone. Then it'll work for me. As long as there's that case of false identity, of mistaken identity, it's not going to work. What is money? Oh, I guess he must be leading up to that money is a means of exchange. That's what, yes, I'm sure that's what he's leading up to. Let me tell you about a friend, Charlie. Charlie was a very wealthy guy that used to go into the upper Amazon on expeditions, you know, with his native guides. And one of those times, the boat overturned in this piranha-infected river, you know, and fear is the greatest transportational vehicle going. And he hits shore doing 88. Okay. Miles per hour, not kilometers. Okay. Unfortunately, it was not a highly supportive tropical island. It didn't have the mangoes and papayas and all those good things. You know, all it was barren island. Okay, so he got hungry. He got very hungry. A couple of weeks later, they're cruising up the river. Is a boat full of natives on their, you know, weekly headhunting expedition. So Charlie, seeing the boatload, his wallet, the one thing that an American will save no matter what, North or Central American will, you know, whoa, he opens his wallet, he grabs a handful of bills, he runs to the shore and says, save me buy fish, me buy fish. Means of exchange. What do you think happened to Charlie? Anybody want to guess? Means of exchange, huh? Sure. If we're all dumb enough to agree to that, that's the only basis that it's a means of exchange. when there's complete agreement. If somebody says, no, tough, you're out of luck. That isn't what money is anymore. Pretty arbitrary, huh? No, we don't want something arbitrary. Besides, that's not personal. We need to find something that we can relate to personally, an identity to money. That's personal, that's real. We don't even know what the stuff is. How do you expect to have worked with it effectively? All this airy-fairy economic stuff. It's a measure of worth, and yeah, sure, you're at the store, and you take your wallet out, and I am taking out a certain measure of worth upon which rests the national blah, 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 blah. Sure! No, you're just taking out money. Sometimes what you're taking out is something you really sweated for, other times, easy come, easy go, or more often than not, you don't even think about it. It's wonderful how we devise ways of not thinking about it. We call them credit cards. We invent credit cards, we invent checks to remove us from that stuff. Right? So therefore, it must be dirty. Money is dirty, right? I've tried it, I've checked it, I put it in soapy water, hardly any dirt comes out. Money is evil. Money is. See, we're looking for what goes after it. Money is evil. Money hurts people. A tool of political repression. I know more lives saved by this stuff in children's hospitals and gorgeous things done with it. So that's not always true. What's always true? We need to find something this is getting very frustrating for you and for me. We got to find something that's always true, that's personal, real about what is money. Then there's the ones that say, well, money is not important. That's a good one. Money is not important. Right, so they go off to communes and they work 18 hours a day in order to prove money is not important. I visit a lot of those places. It's really interesting. 18 hours a day to prove it's not important. You know, working 3 hours in McDonald's, you know, they could make more money. So what they're proving is that human life isn't important. All right, well, let's examine it. Let's get down to basics. What is money? What is always true? What can we put after that equal sign that is always 100% of the time true? All right, we can put down it's a piece of paper. This brand of money is a piece of paper. It's about, I don't know, my metric's too good. It's 2 3/4 inches by about 6.5 inches. It's kind of a beige, this brand of money, and it's got funny little lines on the other side, and that's real helpful, right? But it's true. For this brand, that's true, and for this number, that's not very useful. All right, it'll burn. Money is something that will burn. We can't have fire, and okay. Thank you. We need to find something that's always true. We have dealt with this stuff for 20, 30, 40, 50 years without knowing what it is. Without having something that's 100% true for us personally. Let that one sink in. When I realized that really swung it for me. That this simple fact, is one of the most important facts that you can come to, realizations that you can come to in terms of your financial health. To know that you don't know. You don't know what the stuff is. On a personal, 100% true. So what is it? What's one thing we can say 100% of the time around this stuff? What's the one identity? What's the one thing we can put after that equal sign that is true, always, and that can turn your life around? No joke. It's not one of those claims. Believe, brothers and sisters, and your life will be turned around. No. This is very real. It's something you exchange your life energy for. That's it. That's it.
Cat's out of the bag. That's all. That's 100% true. You trade a certain amount of your life energy for the stuff. Always. No matter what you do. Even if you inherited it, you signed for it in the lawyer's office. Even if you found it falling off the back of a Brinks truck, you picked it up. That was an exchange of your life energy for that stuff. No matter what kind of a windfall, you exchange some life energy. Or if you're slaving away hour after hour, you're exchanging your life energy for that stuff. Now, a thing to remember is life energy is a finite quantity. You got 35 years left. That's it. You got 35 years left. You got 307,000 hours left. That's how much you got left if you're 40. 307,000 hours, of which about 137,000 is going to be spent in sleeping, in eating, and maintaining the vehicle, okay? Which means you've got available kind of discretionary use, you know, other than sleeping and maintaining the basic vehicle. You got 270,000 hours left, all you 40-year-olds out there. You got 270,000 hours left. Okay, that's life energy. You see, that's what we're talking about. Time doesn't do it. It's not time. If you want, you know, it's like work is, you know, force over distance. Okay, life energy is kind of like that. It's your juice. It's not just time. Time is an abstraction. This is something very not abstract. You eliminate your life energy for a couple of minutes and see if it's abstract. Okay, I think you can last about 5 minutes or so without, you know, that juice happening. Okay, and then it's called dead. Okay, well, it's that life juice, you see, that you're exchanging for money. Right or wrong, good or bad, doesn't matter, no judgment. That's true, no matter how you do it. That's true for money all the time. That is the one definition of money that works, absolutely works. When you begin to see money as simply an expression of your life energy, and when you can quantify that, which is what the whole second half is going to be, you'll see how you can quantify that, and light bulbs are going to light. That works. Cogitate on that one. It's not as simple, it's not as stupid as it sounds. It's immensely important, and people over and over again, that's the one thing they write me and tell me, you know, that's the one thing that I really got from the seminar, which is pretty insulting considering I've been sweating for the Thank you.
This concludes Session 6. Please take the necessary time to answer the review questions for Session 6 on page 59 in your workbook. When you are ready to continue, answer the preview questions for Session 7 on page 63, and then continue listening on the next disc.